So, welcome everyone to Carving a New Path. Today I'm here with Monisha Mittal, and I'm going to tell you some things about her in just a minute. First, I'll do some of these introductory things that I do, especially for people who are here for the first time. So, my name is Andrea Hyland. I'm the host of this show and the founder of Heal My Voice and the Incubator, an annual online co working space for women creatives. And I'm also an ancestral lineage healing practitioner, which I don't always say in the show, but today I just felt like saying that. And just know that the link to my website is in the show page description, as well as all these other things we're going to talk about today. And if you are new to the show, I just want you to know that this podcast began in March 2020 in response to all the change that people were experiencing at that time. And I really wanted to invite conversations with guests who had listened to their inner voice, had gone through times where they needed to release things from the past, and then they birthed new ways of being in the world. So, on the show, we talk about a variety of topics, and it all comes down to ideas that you can use to carve a new path for yourself. So, my guest today, as I said, is Monisha Mittal, and the topic is why play matters. Oh, I feel playful even saying that. And exploring the wisdom of play dates. So, we're going to talk about the power of play and play dates and more. And Monisha, hello. I don't
Hello.
want to say a quick hello to you, and then I just want to introduce everyone to read a little bit about you before we get started. And I'll say to the listeners that Monisha and I met, I think it was about 15 years ago, and we became friends through a variety of connections, meetings, events, radio shows that we did back in the day when it was Blog Talk Radio. This is our first episode on carving a new path. So I just think we're going to have some fun having this conversation today. All right, everyone, I'm going to read some words as a way of introducing Monisha, and then we're going to dive into this rich topic. So, Monisha Mittal is a somatic coach, a play architect, and writer. She is writing a book, which I hope will weave into the conversation today a little bit. And Monisha helps build authenticity and vitality for heart-centered leaders and their communities so they live and lead from their unique inner verve. With a background in economics, community development, and management consultant, she brings more than 20 years of experience as a trained facilitator, building organizational and team capacity. For the past 5 years, she has pursued a passion that combines her love of interpersonal communication and growth with somatic wisdom and improvisational play, primarily through the InterPlay system. So, Monisha is a certified InterPlay leader and InterPlay life practice leader for the DC region. That's Washington, DC, for anyone who doesn't know that. She uses her somatic play toolset to provide profound body-led play experiences through coaching and classes for you to access your somatic intelligence for greater clarity, connection, ease, and flow. So, yay! And welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Really happy to be here with you, Andrea.
I'm so happy to have you here. And see, I was so excited that I threw my notebook off the table. I was like,
Everything's ready to play. Yeah.
everything is ready to play. That is for sure. Okay, so unless there's something else you want to start with, I want to ask you a question of how
Mhm.
you got inspired about play and the concept of play dates. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Take us where you want to take us.
Okay. Yeah. Um, so I will begin by saying play has transformed my life. I think you could even hear the transitions in my bio from the life I had before and the life I had now. And if at the end, so my story of inspiration has three beats to it. It has just three parts, and I'll just go through them really quickly. But if you had told me at the end of 2017 that I would be playing myself into a new career, I would just not have believed you.
Mhm.
Um, but at that point in time, I had made a choice to leave my job of 20 years. There were a variety of factors, but fundamentally, I wasn't going to grow anymore in the role I had at that time. And as you know, prior to this time, I'd had some body awakening experiences. And so within a month of my unknown, I entered the 6-month life practice program, which led me through the InterPlay system. So InterPlay is an improvisational system. It's based in the performing arts. And basically, they give you highly accessible forms to get you moving, storytelling, and vocalizing. So something big happened for me here. And even others around me noticed that there was just this big wisdom that wanted to come through. So it was both of me, but also more than me, kind of at the same time. So on the one hand, I'm having these experiences where I feel very connected to wholeness and connected to a deeper assurance in my body. But then I'm still navigating this new terrain. And the way that I'm presenting there is I'm highly anxious and I'm full of self doubt. And it wasn't only that I didn't know where to put my next step, it was also just how little I, I could like I couldn't trust myself. Like I didn't know how to trust myself. So that's kind of the first beat of that story. It's kind of the setup. But then the second is the pandemic. So enter the pandemic. And at this time, I'm in the process of getting certified as an interplay leader. And one of the co founders of Interplay invited me to become a weekly dance chaplain because she perceived the level of support, out there that people would need. So I had never needed to tune into a weekly theme that would support and inspire others. Now, what was I supposed to do? And so, out of necessity, like practices are born. And so,
Mhm.
I started to show up on Sunday mornings. I would turn on my local Unity service. It always has a guided meditation. I gave myself to this free form drawing. I gave myself to a little bit of writing. And then I gave myself to these walks. And I'll get into that in a second. Um, and this practice, uh, you know, again, I couldn't have told you that this was a play date. But looking back at it, this was, it became the seed for a play date practice. And that practice ended up actually becoming the flow for my weekly newsletters. And so, like, my newsletters are full on play, they are reflections of where my curiosity takes me and the connections that I make with those curiosities. Okay. So that's kind of one level. So then that same year, this is the third beat. And a fellow interplayer came to me and said to me, I want to set up some weekly time with you. I want you to be my guide and my witness as we flow through some interplay forms because she wanted some support. She
Mhm.
wanted some play support. And literally, what happens with these forms is I found that her unique, true, authentic self, like no holds barred, would come out to play with my unique, authentic self. And it was this interaction and this interplay that would lead us right to the discovery and the knowing and that she really needed for herself. And so that's when I really turned on the light bulb, like, oh, these are holy play dates. These are holy play dates. Um, so even though those examples involve, there's some very specific type of play, such as interplay going on, I have now come to a place where I have a variety of weekly play practices, and I just find them indispensable for me to get out of my own way.
I love this, and I want us to go into kind of the like key characteristics about what makes a play date. But before we do that, just for the listeners, I wonder if you could put a few, because I'm like, there are things I know about you. And I thought when you were sharing a few of the things, I thought, well, the listeners may not know what this is or may be curious. First, I wanted to say, could you put a few words to what is a dance chapel? Because you became a dance chaplain, and I just feel like that might be helpful to hear what that experience, like what are some of the things it included? What was it like?
Yeah, I just also have to say, like, I am not from Christian background. I did not even have that intersection
Mhm.
with this. There's a lot of folks in Interplay who do come, from a church background. But anyway, so what it is, a chaplain is basically like, I mean, my experience, you're holding space, people are coming, they have needs, life is giving them a little bit more than they can deal with, and so it's not at all like maybe in a regular church, a chaplain would pray with them, but here we just dance with them, and
And this
so
is on Zoom.
and this is on Zoom,
Okay.
yeah.
I wanted
And
to highlight that too. Yeah.
and Cynthia's format was just so preciously beautiful. It was the perfect incubation space for me to learn how to step in front of a group of people. But essentially, I developed my own like my voice and nuances for how I held the format. But essentially, people come in, they have a little time with their voice to state their intention. They light a candle for their intention. I will do my thing, whether a meditation or a poem to really bring in the energy of the theme. We will give time for some solo movement with their intention. And then there's a beautiful piece that is unique to Interplay, which is we dance on behalf of each other's need.
Mhm.
And so you get to witness your need dancing out on the floor. And I recently did this as part of a introductory workshop at Unity, and this woman just looked at me with big eyes and said, I felt like that was a living prayer on my behalf.
Mm.
And so she really got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I wanted to start with that piece because, and then I want to highlight something else. In many ways, you just showed us what it actually looks like when someone is being called to uh, do and be something else in their life that is greater than the job that they have, the life that they are living. And I just feel like as you took us through those three clear pieces, that parts of yourself were being awakened, there were things that were falling away. There were doubts and fears that came up. There were challenges for you in terms of even, being invited to be a dance chaplain and going, okay, wait a minute, how am I going to get the inspiration for the theme and all? And so you just showed us beautifully that one of the places you're connected is Unity. And during 2020, it was, well, and maybe it still is because I know many organizations are still online. But before that, they probably did not have an
Exactly.
online option.
And very similarly with Interplay, there only Cynthia was the only one who was doing anything online, and that was her dance chapel.
Yeah.
There were two spaces to do, and that's the only reason I became so connected to dance chapel, is that when I was going through my 6-month program, something woke up so much in me. It didn't just want to meet once a month.
Hmm.
And this was my only way to have more of this, to have more of me.
Yeah.
So that became a weekly thing. And I just want to uplift something that you're really bringing out, which is honestly, it's like play is, when you really step into play as a lifestyle, it is it's a glide path for your being and becoming.
Mm.
And it does that in a way that is just full of ease, full of lightness, and full of joy. So it's both a process and a destination pathway. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking a pause there and then bringing that in, because I really feel like I like to encourage the listeners to think about how this relates to things that are going on in their lives when there's change that's
Yeah.
happening, what it looks like, and that it didn't all just come together with one little idea and thing. It was
Yeah. And
over
think
and over.
and think about that shortcut that play is giving, because play is just adapting. It's
Mm.
not planning. It's not, you can't plan unforeseen events. And so it's another example of how having a play as a practice just makes you so much more able to suss out possibilities and options. And so now in the interplay world, we've basically learned a couple of things. We've learned that, yes, there's some things you can only do in person, but there's only some things you can do on Zoom.
Yes,
And so there's play with more creative possibilities. Yes.
I love it. Okay, now that we've gone through a couple cycles of that, let's go back to the play dates and how um yeah, I was just thinking there was something that you said, but now it's not coming to me. But what I want to highlight first is that through a series of things, you came up with these are holy play dates.
Yeah.
And so I want to put a pin in that so that we can make sure that we refer back to the holy play dates.
I
All
love that.
right.
Yes.
All
No,
right.
it'll be a great arc. We'll go through the
Great.
anatomy of a play date and we'll go back to that. That'll be
Yes.
perfect.
Great.
Yes.
So I just would love to have you talk about then key characteristics or the anatomy of a play date
Yeah.
and then weave in how we can craft play dates for ourselves.
Talk about an anatomy of a play date is probably to give you some examples also in the same way. But so see, so one simple example. So I'll one simple example that you can do um, is you can go someplace that simply fills you up with light and joy, right? Or even a person, right? But the thing that's happening there is that something in you is coming alive.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay.
I
So
love that.
this, and it doesn't have to cost anything. And this could be an art gallery. This can be a card store, a yarn store, a fabric store, going on a street with cute windows. Obviously, for some people, it could be a spot in nature. But then, there are certain people that just by being with them, there's nothing you need to do with them. They just make you happy to be with them.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the first thing, is that there's this element in you that's looking to come alive. So my second favorite example is walks as play dates, and I know you are not unfamiliar with that, and I know
Mhm.
many listeners will not be unfamiliar, but I want to go through some of the key elements here to set up the anatomy. So I when I go on a walk, especially when I was cultivating, like creating this practice, I would go on a walk with my phone, and my phone was my camera. And I would take a question with me on my walk. So again, it's open. I'm going on this walk and I just let myself explore. I let myself see what catches my attention and what I notice. And it might be the color of something, it might be the way the light and the shade is dancing with the trees, whatever it is. But I let myself get lost just taking pictures. And so what happens is, as you do this, I was letting go of a narrow focus on my question. I wasn't going with, I want the answer to this, and how might I mess it up if I get the wrong answer, and I want to have this kind of impact or this kind of impression. um, and so what's beautiful with that is, again, I am coming alive. I'm taking these pictures, I'm coming alive. The question is out loose, floating in my stratosphere. Um, and I'm either walking towards what's getting my attention or walking away from what got my attention. Um, and then, like you, different streams of information will just start coming in, and you can record them on your phone. So that is a play walk.
Mm.
Um, a third example is, when you craft something with your hands. So I mentioned this because it's less free form. You still have something tactically that you're doing. I have a friend who loves fabric and she's a quilter, but I tell her that she paints with fabric because what she gets lost in is the color, the shading, the texture. And so all of this is alive in her as she's making these physical choices of sorting, picking, placing. Right. So there it is again. You're giving yourself over to something where you can get lost in the play. And the other point I want to make here is that you're making choices in the play.
Oh.
Okay. And then the last example I want to give is something slightly more creative that's free form. So people often have the belief that they can't draw or sing or whatnot. And so I'll touch on more specifics on that, but there's some very simple ways that you can start with a blank piece of paper and let yourself be creative so that you can get the anatomy of a play date. Okay. So when I talk about play, obviously, I'm not talking about competitive games or or sports.
Mhm.
I mean something very open-ended, whose ending or pathway you cannot predict. And since this is for adults, I want to emphasize that I'm talking that this is physical, even if it's in a light way, because it involves some level of movement or your gaze or your hands or your fingers. Okay, so in each of these examples, one anatomy of a play date is that you're loosening up your focus, and you get to use what I call your eyes of wonder. Um, and then second, you're shifting your relationship to your surroundings. You're actually moving beyond trust into engagement. And so something in you is coming alive and you're engaging with the space around you. And then third, you're making choices in the moment, following your own inner wiring. So you talk about this as inner authority. And when you're lost in the play, you're not even aware, like you can't even define what is it that's getting your attention. So I like to think that's my fourth quality of of this play date. What your curiosity is looking for is so unique to you. And you probably can't even totally define it for yourself, right? But you're having it and you're in it. So the fifth quality of a play date is that physically you're putting your energy into something. It could be a piece of clay, it could be stacking cups, but you're making a specific choice in this physical space that you're in, and you're just watching for the response back. You're watching how that thing responds back to your choice. And it's this watching with fascination and wonder. So you no longer have a need to get it right, to get it wrong, or not be enough. Like the so you're just willing to be in the experience of it. And then the last piece of the anatomy is that you don't know where the play is going to take you.
Mhm.
Um, so to get back to your pin in it, to get back to
Yeah.
the holy play
Oh,
date,
yeah.
the magic happens because amidst the play, you are effortlessly emitting more and more of your unique essence, your unique vibration into the physical space that you're occupying. So now, instead of your higher potential, your higher self that's sitting up here in this other dimension, it is effortlessly, joyously, and with ease coming into this physical reality that we tend to experience as full of constraints, but magically there's more and more of you in this room. I'm noticing my voice even change, when I say that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons I love having conversations with you in particular in this space, and just in general, doing podcasts and hearing people talk about things that they're passionate about, is that automatically I can feel like something starts to change in me, or it starts to draw attention to something that just happened. And I know we're going to go into powerful gifts for adults, and something happened yesterday that I just feel like I'm going to share because it just got stimulated as a memory from what you were just sharing. Um, so I live house free, and when I'm in um, California, specifically West LA or the beach, I'm at Venice. I'm at Venice Beach now for a couple of months. I have a small storage unit here. And so yesterday I got on the bus to go to the storage unit, and I wanted to get some supplies, and I also wanted to spend a little bit of time downsizing, which I do that everywhere I am. Like, let me use what I have. Is there anything that I no longer need? Can I put a book in a little free library? Whatever it is. So I was sitting on the bus, and all of a sudden there were loud voices and loud interactions. And I'm watching uh, a younger man who kind of sounded like Dustin Hoffman when he played, is it Rain Man? Was that the film? Okay. So it's reminding me of that character. And then there's an older man, probably in his 80s, with a walker, and he's yelling at him. And I'm like kind of watching the interaction of the people. And I was thinking, boy, if anyone ever wants to write a screenplay or a book and they feel stuck, all they need to do is get on this uh, little blue bus, big blue bus in this area, and just watch people and listen to the conversations, because I just saw all these scenes being played out. And
That's right.
bring this like aliveness into my body of what I was noticing was happening around me, and what were the sensations in my body, and did I need to be involved with it? And it did feel very physical, because I was actually sitting towards the back, kind of elevated above, and it felt like I was watching a scene on stage. So then I get off the bus and I walked 15 minutes to my storage unit. And it's not like I love going and getting a few of my things there, but to downsize again is not always my happy space. But I already had this aliveness going in my body from what I had just experienced, and then the walk and the thinking about it. And I timed myself that I was going to spend a half an hour going through things. And when the half an hour was up, I was like, oh, wow, that went fast. I think I'll just do a little bit more. And I was able to really go through some stuff and bring things then to pass on to someone else. And as I'm hearing you speak, what I'm realizing was that there was such an aliveness of play that was happening for me on that bus and all the possibilities and the creativity that was flowing in me. And I'm looking at your points and I'm like, oh, yeah, there I can see that and that and that. Was that this so-called mundane task that I needed to do
Exactly.
became more playful.
That's
So
right.
I just want to use that. That's what like popped up for me, just hearing you describe the key
Yeah.
characteristics. So I'm going to hand it to you to take it where you want to take it
Well,
with
I just want to pull
this.
out two things in what you said there. One
Yeah.
is how, like, that's the first gift of play that is well written about, but it opens you up to possibilities,
Yeah.
right? But the other thing that I love is how you brought the body into it. And this, like, I can feel my body just buzzing so happy. It's like, yay, 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 because this is what the body's designed for. And what I'm writing about in my book with play is the reason the body loves when you play is
Hmm.
that it can work for you in the highest way it was designed, because now there's nothing in between your your what do we want to call it, your being, your true self, some people call it soul, whatever it is, but there's something that animates you and living inside your body, your life force. And now there is nothing in the way between your awareness and the truth of who you are.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then the third thing that does, so the body is giving you constant feedback, because that's the body's whole role, is it's here to lead you to a choice. It's constantly leading you to a choice that you can make for on your behalf, for your highest, right? So now you're making these choices and you're being informed, not by, am I getting this right? Not, am I getting ahead? How are other people going to see me? You're not guided by any of those things. You're naturally in this place that is beyond all of that. You're naturally connected to this place of wholeness and abundance. And you're putting that energy into your choice. So even the frequency with which you're sending your choice out, we live in a vibrational reality. And so you're sending your choice out in this higher vibrational reality, right? Einstein said, play is the highest form of research. And that's what I really love, is that you're willing to make a choice to express yourself, your true self. And then you're making that choice in the world. And you're like, how is the world hollering back? Like, here, I've expressed myself through this choice in the world, and I get to play with however the world hollers back. So that, I think in a nutshell, is the gravy train, because you free yourself up from evaluating or judging your response. You just keep seeing what gets your interest, and if it doesn't, you move on. So it's this frequency, I think, that brings in your true alignment, heart, mind, body, soul. It's just without effort, it just comes online and leads you from one thing to the next to the next. So yeah. um
Yeah. I love that.
yeah, but and there's so many examples of this, right? Like you're saying, that it brought up this one. I have so many little experiences of play. you know I was coming out of a dentist shop. There was something up with my phone. Like, I couldn't get the GPS to work. I was hungry. I'm in this industrial place thing. It would have been like 20 minutes for me to go back home. I would have only been hungrier because I would have to make something to feed myself. So here I'm like, more and more stress. And then I remembered play. I remembered my play practice, and I just let all that go. And I just let my instinct take me. Do I want to turn left or right out of this parking lot? So my instinct said, go right. And the rational mind would say, all I see is commercial buildings. There's no food here. Um, but as soon as I turned, in like just the span of one building and its parking lot, I saw a teeny little sign that said something about a cafe. I turn left into the parking lot. I park. In front of me is a car where the license plate has a monarch butterfly, which I wore my butterfly skirt. And the license plate says he, H-E-E, H-E-E. And then
I love
I
it.
get out of my car and I walk up the stairs, and the sign doesn't just say open, it says welcome. And it's not it's like you walk in and immediately there's like this little salon. Someone had thought to put Japanese ceramic little planters with bamboo. So there's this beautiful blue and white. Like it felt like a welcoming little place to sit and have a reprieve. And then you walk in and there's this elderly, like, I'm going to guess Japanese lady, and she makes all of the food on the sandwich board. And I ended up choosing something with mushrooms, and it actually had true umami flavor. And so, like, you have this whole other experience that you could not predict or imagine for yourself. So I think I'll go ahead and punch through my gifts with that. So
Yeah.
because which so I guess I'll go on that one first, because the real deliciousness, and it's perfect that we're doing this at the beginning of the year, is that play makes you more aware of what you want. It's really another, like in interplay, we say play is sneaky deep. So this is a layer of play that doesn't really get talked about very much. But when you're in your play, and without even being needing to be consciously aware of it, play is becoming a conduit for what you secretly desire, because you don't know that that's what's under your fascination. You don't know that desire is lurking underneath your curiosity. um and so, one time in my newsletter I wrote, wonder's got your back. Like, she's like, don't worry, I know what you really want, but we have desires beyond what we can imagine. And so there, or better than we can imagine. So when we play, we're actually playing with these, or better than we can imagine. I think that's one of the best gifts of play. For me, as a person who started with so much hesitation and anxiety, I really learned play was the opposite of self-doubt. And it's this openness frequency. So you're in this frequency of wonder. You just allow yourself to notice and dance with so many more possibilities, and you let life surprise you. And I think that is such a precious, precious gift of play. Um, the second thing, as we already talked about, is you're more willing to be in the experience. You're in tune with your surroundings. You're in tune with your own vibe. That's the essence of being in play. And it changes your relationship. How are you relating to others in your space? So when I let play become a practice, I decided to let it become a practice at my part-time job, like playing with people's personalities and playing with, I just made it about what is it that I want in this moment? What is it that like took out all of my personal stuff, and it really did allow me to play with a lot more personalities and a lot more situations than I would have otherwise felt comfortable in. So
Mhm.
I think that's also very vital. And when play becomes a practice, I'm more willing to play with what life sends my way. And so it's like you start living that play, that life is for me. It's not happening to me, it's happening for me.
Mm.
And yeah, and then finally, it's just the path of least effort and fun. Um, for me, one of my biggest gifts is play has lightened me up. It took all of the years of developing as an interplay leader for me to really identify as a recovering overachiever. I didn't know how much I would make things harder for myself. And now I look for the path of ease, mostly because I just want it to be more fun for me. So I'm more aware when I'm placing pressure on myself, or I used to feel really shy to play as my authentic self. So these are all reasons to make play and making play dates a practice for yourself.
I love it. I
I
love it.
know, I know. Could
Oh
we
my
just
God.
quickly cover how to craft a play date with just the creative example?
Absolutely. Yeah, do that. I was just going to say, I can see, wow, how that time went so fast with you. And so let's just start. Yeah, bring like some kind of information, guidance, and we'll start closing the,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah. So
Again, I super appreciate, it's such a magical time of year when we're all with our mystery and leaning into our next layer of being and becoming, and for play to be the guiding word for to open up the year. I mean, I think that has a lot of gift in it for me and for you and for anybody listening. So
Absolutely.
the way that it transpired was totally playful. Um, so yeah, so we talked about identifying a place. I mean, if you're just starting, because I used to be a person, 90% of my identity was solving problems. I mean, that is not playful. Um, so just when you need a micro step, just you want to start making space in your schedule for places that fill you up, that just fill you up with some joy and light. So that would be one thing. Um, and I talked about walking as a play date. If you are a visual person, you can just take your iPhone. I talked about a physical, crafty type of practice. The whole point is think of where you get lost. What are the tactical things that you get lost in? I mean, for some people, it might be Legos or blocks or something. And even 10 or 15 minutes of that. So I just wanted to go a little deeper on the more free form type of creativity, because a lot of people have a belief that they can't draw or they're not creative. So, but you can simplify this way of making choices so that it feels like play. So my first example is if you just have a blank piece of paper and you get out some color pencils or crayons or markers. The first thing you could do is just make a bunch of dots or circles on the page. Um, so you can choose where you want to place those circles. You can choose the size of them and the color of them, but just give yourself to a blank piece of paper where you're making the simple choice around colors and sizes of circles. And then the next level of play is you can play with how you want to connect those circles. Like, are there going to be wavy lines? Are there going to be straight lines? Are you connecting things in a cluster? Are you doing wide arcs? Just keep noticing. It's like you're handing over the energy, like you want to give yourself the of feeling something in your fingers and then letting the energy of that guide you on the page, right? So just even that, it takes no more than like 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes, but you're giving yourself to opening up your channel to your true self and the thing that lifts you up, and you're being guided more and more by what lifts you up. Um, and the other way you can just do this is just simply doodle. So doodle is just a little bit the next level of that simple thing that I told you. And some of us have doodled for a long time. I've doodled since middle school, things like that. But in doodling, you have more freedom than drawing because you're not trying to make it anything. And you can have more options. So you can start playing with shapes. You can start coloring a corner of a page. You can make a spider web to connect it to the rest of the space. You can start playing with making shapes in a sequence, triangle, circle, triangle, circle. So you can start intersecting dots inside the spider web. So there's just don't let it be overwhelming, but just give yourself to learning how your hand wants to move on the page. That would be my quick intro for play dates that are all, very low barriers to entry.
I love that. And I love the examples of even, having dots on a page and it not needing to be, I mean, I don't know about you, or about the listeners, but I know that I had some judgment around not being an artist just based on some things that happened in childhood. And I am an artist. I am a creator. It's just that it comes in a lot of different ways. So even being, giving permission to draw some circles and triangles, like that is a way of playing. And just
Yeah.
see how
Yeah.
up with that. Yeah.
So I would love to invite people to go to my website and sign up for my weekly newsletter. So that is the best. So for example, you can get, I will, in my next newsletter this week, I will point you to an article series I wrote a while back around safe play and safety, the relationship between play and safety. And there's a few other things I'm working on at the start of this year. So I'll be putting out some guided meditations that introduce people to some somatic play. And eventually I'll be providing some introductory classes and a course that involves all types of beautiful somatic play practices. But honestly, I would just maybe encourage people to my newsletter is called The Tiny Voice of Big Love, and it's really just a way of getting a weekly love letter in the mail um, to see, like, it has been a somatic wisdom type of channel, the wisdom that my body was giving me, but I can feel now that the transmission is going to be much more around play for at least this first quarter. So I think that will be. I would love for people to check things out there.
I love it. Thank you for that. And just to remind the listeners that look in the show page description because there you'll find the links and you'll find Monisha's website. And right on the page, front page of her website, you'll see, subscribe that you can enter your email address. So it's really simple. And I encourage you to check it out and play, play,
Yes.
have that
Yes.
encouragement of play. Monisha, thank you so much. This is such an inspiration to start off this year of 2025 by having this conversation with you. And like I said, it was already being ignited with something that happened yesterday that maybe I wouldn't have even thought about again. But thank you for pointing me in that direction and then just talking about it, opening us up to possibilities. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Andrea. It's been lovely to be with you in conversation and to just be with the flow of where the conversation was going to go. I love that you brought in the word ignite. Just that would be my wish for all of the readers here is a 2025 full of ease, your precious fire, which is the pathway for your desires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo! Bring on more of our desires this year for sure.
Yes.
Thanks to all the listeners, and we'll see you another time soon. Bye bye now.